damn weird. Skunk Ape. Skunk Ape, also known as the Swamp Cabbage Man, Swamp Ape, Stink Ape, Florida's Bigfoot, Louisiana Bigfoot, Mayaka Ape, Swamp Squatch, and Miyaka Skunk Ape, is a hominid cryptid said to inhabit the U.S. states of Florida, North Carolina, and Arkansas. While the reports from Florida are the most common, it is named for its appearance and for the unpleasant odor that is said to accompany it. Reports of the skunk ape were particularly common in the 1960s and 70s. In 1974, sightings of a large, foul-smelling, hairy ape-like creature, which ran upright with 2 legs, were reported in suburban neighborhoods of Dade County, Florida. Skeptical investigator Joe Nickel has written that some of the reports may represent sightings of the black bear, and it is likely that other sightings are hoaxes or misidentifications of wildlife. The United States Park Service considers the skunk ape to be a hoax. In 2000, 2 photographs said to be of the skunk ape were taken by an anonymous woman and mailed to the Sheriff's Department of Sarasota County, Florida. The photographs were accompanied by a letter from the woman in which she claimed to have photographed an ape in her backyard. The woman wrote that on 3 different nights, an ape had entered her backyard to take apples left on her back porch. She was convinced the ape was an escaped orangutan. Pictures have become known to Bigfoot enthusiasts as the Skunk Ape Photos. Lauren Coleman, Crazy Man, said whites were from Homo sapiens and all others from gorillas and apes, is a primary researcher on the photographs, having helped track down 2 photographs to an Eckert photo lab in the intersection of Fruitville and Tuttle Road in Sarasota. According to Chester Moore Jr., the photographs were taken in Sarasota County near the Mayaka River. Skunk apes are hairy humanoids sighted in many areas of North America, but especially in swamps and especially in the South. They are held distinct from Bigfoots by having a different home range. Bigfoot is generally considered to be a being restricted to the Pacific Northwest, and by having both a different physical appearance and a different set of habits ascribed to them. The Florida version of the skunk ape is sometimes referred to as the Florida Sandman, and other local varieties often have local nicknames. At least 2, if not 3, distinct varieties of skunk apes exist in these legends. This is partially because the definition of skunk ape has varied from one cryptozoologist to the next, and because this definition has also evolved over time. Another reason why it is hard to think of the skunk ape as being just any kind of creature is because the creature in these reports shows enough natural variations that it is hard to lump them together. The most consistent characteristic ascribed to skunk apes is the smell. It is generally said that all of them have a rather unpleasant and extreme odor that is nauseating. In other respects, the definition varies in the past. This horrible odor was once used to define a skunk ape, but today more non-smelly beasts are given the title and label of skunk ape. Some skunk apes are generally said to look something like Bigfoot, but they tend to be really large and sometimes have an oversized heads that look more monster-like than ape-like. Other creatures labeled as skunk apes look more like a cross between a dog, a giant monkey, and a kangaroo. The fur color of the skunk ape is usually dark, with many individuals who are black or deep brown. And they may be tall, and they may have a tail, and others say they're squat, with no tail. When it exists, this tail is often bushy like the tail of a wolf or a fox. Some individuals are described as particularly big, up to 10 feet tall, but the average height seems to be about 6 feet tall. Skunk ape's feet are often described as being different from a Bigfoot's, especially in the terms of the foot shape and the number of toes. Skunk ape toes numbers are sometimes quite variable, with 3 toes footprints being the most common found. Since the number of toes is one of the slowest changing features as a species evolves, it is not generally thought that a primate could have developed such a foot. This leaves a lot of problems for those who hope to prove that skunk apes with their atypical feet are real creatures, because the skunk ape's feet really ought to match up with other biological expectations. Either that, or it is not an ape in any way. Skunk apes tend to be very aggressive towards dogs and are often reported as carnivorous. In any case, they seem to kill a lot of livestock, especially the smaller varieties such as goats and chickens. Maybe it's a chupacabra. All too often, skunk apes exhibit paranormal characteristics as well in these reports, features that make them decidedly unattractive to cryptozoologists who hope to uncover a new species instead of a mere urban legend. They may be described as having glowing red eyes, or they might be bulletproof at close range, or have other weird abilities. Like many mythical creatures, they seem to be mysteriously attracted to anyone who has sex in a car in a remote area. Most of them are bipedal, and they seem to show a tendency to drop to all fours and run that way at times. Some creatures labeled as skunk apes seem very much like known primates, especially chimps and orangutans. These sightings could represent feral populations that have developed from abandoned pets or lab animals, or more recently, storm situations where zoo animals have escaped. And this is the interpretation given to the skunk ape reports by some researchers working in the field of cryptozoology. However, hairy humanoids that resemble known primates are more popularly known as napes, short for North American apes. The Florida variety of skunk ape is seen most often in swampy areas such as the Everglades. Florida skunk apes tend to be more physically normal than skunk apes found elsewhere, so that some researchers define them as unique type that is much more likely to turn out to be a real species. Some people think that these creatures smell so bad because they spend most of their time underground in dens curled up with carrion stolen from alligators. It is said that this underground lifestyle is also the reason why they're rarely sighted and have not yet been captured by scientists. Since certain types of skunk apes often sound more like supernatural creatures, such as werewolves or hairy ogres from some fairy tales, than a legitimate variety of Bigfoot, and even the more normal variety often suffers from other weird characteristics that seem unlikely from a biological viewpoint. Skunk apes have a credibility problem, and they have received less attraction and attention and funding in the cryptozoological community than their more respectable cousin, the Pacific Northwest Bigfoot. It should be seen that these mythical properties were probably granted to them by mistake by the viewer, like the werewolf. It's just a skunk ape or a nape. So don't let local lore override your opinion on what may in these cases be real details of a sighting. Thank you.